Welcome to Yin Yoga Lifestyle. I am your host, Colette Darville. Cultivating our body's resilience and inner silence and its application to all aspects of your life. Let's become enlightened and enjoy the power of intuitiveness and creativity. You are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I am your host, Colette Darville, and this is Yin Yoga Lifestyle. So now let us take a deep meditative breath. Inhale, so. Exhale, hum. Jen Cairo is one of 7 authors who contributed to the newly released book, The Path of Awakening, A Healing Journey. Jen's chapter, An Empath's Awakening, reveals what it is like growing up as an empath. Sharing her path to awakening, demonstrating her profound experience of opening herself up to something much greater than herself. As she travels the path to awakening, Jen shares her feelings and how loss leads to her happiness in the process. As Jen introduces her empathic gifts to the world, her future unfolds before her. Jen's story will inspire others who are empathic as well as those who love them, helping them to understand their sensitivities to their surroundings. Joyce Ely writes, An Empath's Awakening has been described as a deep-rooted and resounding study that examines the so often unshared awkwardness of childhood and the internal emotional battlefields that we experience as we grow into adulthood. A beautiful description of an amazing journey and final discovery of the healing power found within. Welcome to Yin Yoga Lifestyle, Jen.
Well, thanks for having me today. I'm so excited to join you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. We really are. And I actually wanted to ask you about growing up as an empath. What was it like? What was it like growing up as an empath?
Well, it's funny. I was always the shy and quiet child growing up. And, I liked to be alone a lot of the time. It was often a challenge because kids thought I was the odd duck or quirky and nerdy, but it didn't bother me back then. I was always at comfort playing by myself or, I always found nature comforting, walking in the woods, especially by my home, as I speak about in my story, brought me peace and made me feel safe. I was a deep thinker. I felt wise beyond my years a lot of the times. And, that often led to a lot of anxiety and that, carried on into my teenage years.
Yeah, and that's and at that point you didn't really know you were an empath, did you?
No, I had no idea. I knew nothing about empaths or, being empathic. That came many years later. Only a couple of years ago did I start studying about empaths and realize that, hey, this is me.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed your chapter in the newly released book, Path of Awakening, A Healing Journey. And I have to tell you, it was a gentle read. So often you read chapters that are sort of fraught with so much angst before the final, crescendo of actually finding peace. But and I know that maybe that wasn't the case for you, perhaps, but it was a lovely, gentle read, and I enjoyed it so much. It was so refreshing. But what inspired you to write the manuscript?
Well, it's funny, when I was presented this opportunity, I thought it was a perfect time to share my story now that I'm, doing the spiritual work and, the Reiki master and, I have a lot of clients that are empathic and I've been teaching a lot about it. So when I was presented this opportunity, I thought this is the perfect time. I spent a lot of time learning about myself and exploring my spirituality, and I'm confident now in my journey, and I feel confident to be able to help others explore their life and their journey and help them get started along their way. So it was just divine timing, to meet Gloria, and she helped me along my way. And it just, everything fell into place. And it was so therapeutic for me to do this. And it was healing. And, to look back and to realize that, I was really an intense kid and a good kid. And I just didn't know where to put all those emotions that I was having. So it was very healing for me to do this. And it just came at the right time in my life.
Mm. And just for listeners who do not know who Gloria is, Gloria Coppola is the one of the organizers and the putting these books together, and she finds these amazing women and combines everybody and creates these wonderful books. Um, and now you write. I can feel this vibe, as I like to call it, a certain way my body feels when they, meaning people, speak to me. What is it like for you to now to walk into a room full of people and all their different emotions? Is it easier for you to manage all the emotional information now that you are a more experienced empath?
Yes, it is. You have coping strategies, meditating before you go into a large room of people, or, just knowing how to process the energies that you're feeling and the emotions that you're feeling. So it is a lot different now and a lot easier for me now. I can still feel all of those energies and emotions, but now I know how
Hmm.
to process them. It
Yeah.
still does, get very overwhelming for me, like at concerts or sporting events. After a little bit of time, I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go and just, step out and step away from it and gather myself, and then I can go back in. But, you have tools that help you cope.
And what was it like before you had the tools?
I couldn't, a lot of young kids could go to concerts and have a great time. I could not do that. It was just too much stimulation. I
Mhm.
couldn't stand to even be in a movie theater, with the loud of the movie and the people all around me too close. It was overwhelming. I could not be in situations like that.
Yeah, that was so, and it must have been pretty frightening as well.
Yeah, not understanding, people love concerts and parties and movie theaters, and I was the one like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, deal with this? My anxiety would just be off the charts. And, I didn't understand what was happening to me.
Hmm. And well, you also write that nature has always been a great comfort and sanctuary to you
Yes,
as an empath. And today, nature is healing at an incredible pace due to the current
yes,
pause in our human activity because of the COVID virus. Is this something you feel deeply?
yes, I do. It's beautiful to see nature healing. Like you see the canal in Italy clear, and,
Mm.
animals coming out that haven't been seen in years. I mean, it is beautiful when you think about that. The earth is healing, the air is cleaner, the water's cleaner. So that's, how I'm looking at things with this virus. I'm looking at the good that's coming out of it. Things are repairing, nature's healing, the animals are healing. So I feel that it's a gift in a way, to have Mother Nature and Mother Earth just take a deep breath and recharge. So I think a lot, people get set in that negative mindset, but maybe we should look at the blessings that are coming out of this. People are getting closer, families are coming together in different ways,
Mm.
spending a lot of time together, playing games, and, the earth is healing. So I try to look at things from that direction.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. We hopefully other people will see it if they haven't seen
Yes,
it already, right? Um,
yes.
maybe that's what this is all about, really, in the great scope of things. What
A wake
sign?
up call. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, a huge wake up call for all of us, right? And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the empathic child. Um, and I knew you're a mother. What signs would an empathic child exhibit, and how could a parent help their child?
Well, a lot of times empathic children are shy and quiet. and they like to play alone. Sometimes they are picked on because, they're so withdrawn sometimes. Um,
Mm.
they have a strong connection to animals, nature, whether it be, the beach or just being outside, that's like their safe place. So I think parents shouldn't, all three of my children are empathic in different degrees.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I think you just have to embrace that. You can't force a child to be something that they're not. And, giving them the tools to cope and encouraging them to embrace who they are and learn how to live with it. Allow them to have that quiet time, that alone time, the recharge time, as I call it, and just embrace them and let them know that they are a gift. Being empathic is a gift, and just encouraging them and not turning them away from it.
Yeah. And yes, and I guess because you remember what it was like to be that child,
Yes.
you're probably a great mom. You've been able
Oh,
to
thank
really
you.
nurture your children. Um,
Yes.
right. But
Yes.
as a mother, how was it to be an empathic parent to your children?
Well, that could be tough sometimes, because I felt what they felt. Like, my daughter especially, was bullied a lot in school because she's the most empathic. And it just hurt my heart so bad to see her go through things that I went through, and as she progressed through her young teenage years, they don't want to hear what their mother has to say,
No,
and I'm
no.
like, I felt this. I know what you're going through. So they kind of have to go through their own journey themselves. And it is hard knowing that you can't fix it, and that they have to go through this on their own. I could only guide them best I could, at this point, an outsider looking in at their life, and what they're going through. So, at times it was, challenging, to see them struggle with friendships, relationships, sports, or
Mm.
schoolwork, because a lot of times, empaths struggle with schoolwork. Sitting in a class could be overwhelming, and I just had to sit from the sidelines and give them the tools they needed and hope that they, listen to me.
And did they?
You know what? As they got older, yes,
Mm.
and it, just like when I was young, my grandparents didn't know about empaths. So I kind of had to figure it out by myself. And hearing me talk about my childhood, they kind of know that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So yes, they did pay attention to me. And now they realize that what they have is a gift. To be able to feel and appreciate people's emotions, is a gift once you get, once you
Yeah.
learn how to use it.
I wanted to ask you, where do you find that your empathic gifts are the most profound? Is it in your work as your Reiki master? But
Yes.
where are your more profound? Like, does it really amplify when you're in those situations?
Yes, doing the energy work, it really does, because I can sense what my clients are feeling. Um, Sometimes people are uncomfortable with sharing with you,
Mm.
whether they're a first time client, they don't know what to expect, but I can feel their sadness. And sometimes I don't even bring it up. I just work on them the way I feel they need to be worked on. But also, I work with young children, and,
Mm.
you know, and I feel like my empathic abilities really help them because I can tell when a child is struggling or they're having a bad day, and maybe I don't push as hard that day. I let them have their time or I let them have a break. I feel like in my work, as a paraprofessional working with the young children, I feel like that really helps me being an empath because
Yeah.
children connect with me. They can tell,
Hmm.
they gravitate towards me because they can tell that I understand and I get their emotions.
Do you feel that as a child, as being an empathic child, and watching these children who are empathic, that there is a more pure form of being an empath when you're very, very, very young, as opposed to when you struggle and then you have to relearn and then you have to say, okay, yes, I'm an empath. You know,
Yes,
yeah.
there's an innocence. Yeah, there is an innocence.